OBS Vlogs. Back to another video. I want to explain how to do Edelbrock intake plenum if you're interested, or if you plan on doing it. Before I start anything about tearing anything down, this bolt right here in the front, your intake manifold, this bolt, and the one that's behind your AC compressor. Let's see. There's another bolt back in there, and one on this side too. Soak those in PV Blaster or Seafoam Deep Creep or something along those lines. That's the first thing I would do. So these two front bolts here, they broke in the heads. But if you end up having the same situation, you can drill them all the way through. I mean, they go all the way through. If you feel the bottom of the heads, you can feel like a little hole. But drill it all the way through and retap them. The back ones for me, they came out terrifyingly. Alright, let's get started. So first off, you want to take off these two clamps for these hoses. I got filters. You got to take these off too. If you got stock air box, I mean, same thing. You got to take this cover off. And you want to go ahead, take off your two cables up here. And then next thing I would do, I go ahead and drain the radiator with the petcock. Once that's drained, you can go to take off this top hose, this bottom hose off your throttle body. This one here will still leak some coolant. Take this off. Next thing I would do, I take off this little hose right here and your upper radiator hose. I move on to this side. You gotta take off our EGR, the studs and bolts. Take those off. So after all that's done, you go ahead and take off this wiring harness. Same with this bottom one. And you're going to move on into removing this upper intake plenum. So it should be a total of 6 bolts. I got more than that on this. 2 front ones here. There's 2 ones here in the middle. This one here I believe is Torx 40. And then there's 2 ones in the back. Of course you want to move this. And what I did was I took off these vacuum hoses. Or lines. Same difference. Alright, after that, you got any of these plastic pieces, I mean, of course, take them out. Next thing I did, so I took off the cap and the wires. I numbered them, as you can see. Pull that out. I believe that bolt right, I'll go down here. I believe this bolt is, I think, 14 millimeters. But before you take this out, make some marks. Come on, focus. There we go. So I went ahead and made a mark with this all the way down here. The mark is still there a little bit. And the rotor inside the distributor, I made a mark with that of where it was. Mine was facing towards this way. So I made a mark on my fuel rail, and then pulled it out. So now that that's out of the way, go ahead and work on this bracket. There's a bolt here, right here, and a bolt here off to the side. And there's one in the back over here. Gotta take that out. And you want to take out this here. I believe it's the air temperature sensor. And there's a coolant temp sensor right up here. I'm going to take that out. Right, so then you should be left with everything on here. And after that, you go to work on your bolts. If these first ones don't move out easy, just spray some PB Blaster on them and tighten it slowly and untighten it and keep that process up until they move. Same with the back one. Here in the back you'd have your PCV valve, which I believe would go here in the middle on the OE one. And by the way, when I took this off, I went ahead and left the throttle body on and the sensor. Once you work your way into getting that plenum out, the lower intake manifold. I'm jumping ahead of myself. You have fuel rails here, this side and the passenger side. Have little screws here. There's one back here somewhere. I'll pull those out gently. And then with your fuel injectors, turn them side to side ever so slightly. Well, that's if you're going to reuse them. If not, just leave them in. Once you have this intake plenum out, had a little Milwaukee buffer / grinder. I went and used a Scotch-Brite end and clean up the gasket material on the inside. And I've always went over it with a vacuum, a small little shop vac vacuum. I even did that before too. So it's always helped to get less in your engine. Even if you have access to an air compressor, you can go ahead and blow all this stuff out too. Once you get to the point, putting your plenum back on. So this China wall and the one in the back, I believe it calls for at least a 1/4 inch size of RTV. I use gray. They use gray Permatex on mine. It's coolant resistant. Then you slap on the upper piece. So it was a bit difficult doing it by myself. I really just held it up there with one arm, using this arm. Then I had this arm over here sitting over my engine bay, just tightening up, hand threading in 2 or 3 bolts and ever so slightly tightening them. So it'll help raise this side up more and more. You may realize once you get to this point, this won't reach up to that. So you can either make a modified bracket, which in the future I will, but I still put my engine ground on there. When I did this, I had this put together with the spacer and the throttle body. I put it all on there as one with the sensor on it. That's why it was a little bit difficult, but everyone does their own processes on themselves, how they do it. I then put in my distributor in, lining up the marks that I have made. I even took a picture of it beforehand. But before any of this top, there's this little that separator. I don't really know what to call it. I put that in. I even put on thread tape. Some people say Teflon tape. Put that on there. When you do thermostat, you have to make sure it's lined up pretty good. The intake does not have a little jacket, just like you'll see on your OE one. It does not have a little like cubby for the thermostat to slide onto. And I even got on a Edelbrock thermostat housing. That doesn't have a lineup either. So it's best to get it as center as possible. If not, you may end up having a leak. And trust me, that's something you may want to test first. Just have it floating around in there. When you get this top on, put this hose back on. Put on this hose and a lower hose. Then you can hook this up, your upper radiator hose. You can go ahead and plug in the IAC valve harness. Same with the throttle body. And then I went ahead and screwed this back in. And I started to put all this back in too. So with the distributor, I even made marks on my cap beforehand. I even looked at a diagram just to be sure I did not have to do it twice. You can go ahead and do your valve covers too. I believe these were all 11mm bolts. I do not remember the torque specs on them. Edelbrock's torque specs. The top I didn't really do torque specs, I just went hand tight, but the bottom I believe it was between 18 and 20 foot-pounds. Sorry, cut out. Come on. So right there, say about 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 threads. That's where I have my screw at. You can adjust yours along the way. But yeah, I went ahead and got this 61mm. If I was going to do it once, or if I was going to go ahead and do this, I'd go ahead and do it one time. And I got a spacer here off eBay. Pretty sure I got it the 1-year protection plan, so it was about 90 bucks for the 1-inch spacer. On that, I poured this to match. It wasn't the best looking job, but it's still there, still holding up. Yeah, this is how she sits, how it looks. I left that spare because I thought it was just way too nice to paint over. Some people leave these bare, some people paint them. I decided to paint mine green and black. Let's go ahead and match the truck some more. But I'm pretty happy with it. Hope this video helps you out, and thank you for watching.